Good, we are live. Good evening. It's good to be here again on this Tuesday evening. Blessed be God. Here we are. It is June already. And today is the 6th day gone already in June. And it's our first Beyond the Pain Live video for this month. It's great to be back here again. We had a wonderful time last week, Tuesday, for those of you who joined us online, as we had our special guest speaker join us to discuss growth beyond the pain, growing through the pain, growing beyond the pain. And this month, we are continuing on a similar topic, and we will be talking about something new that we can bring out of our painful experiences, that we can bring out something new from our painful experiences. And it is important to have this discuss because I'm a firm believer that our pain is never in vain. I'm a firm believer that God does not waste our pain. And therefore, our painful experiences can serve a purpose, and a purpose that will ultimately bring glory to God. And it is from that premise that I say with boldness and confidence that something new can happen beyond our pain. That painful experience can birth something beautiful. It may be difficult for us to fathom it right now in this moment when we are going through the pain. It may be beyond imagination for us. Yes, I get that. But the truth of the matter is something new and something beautiful can come from the place of pain. Indeed, to produce something that is meaningful, that is significant, requires some pain. There is no growth that takes place without pain. There is no transformation that takes place without pain. And therefore, we know that for us to produce something that is meaningful, there must be some season of pain. So if we switch it around and we say, now we are going through pain, what difference would it make for you and I in the way we endure the pain, in the way we process the pain, in the way we comport ourselves when we are going through pain, in the way we process the pain, if we can look at it from that frame of mind, from with that perception that there is a possibility of something new, something beautiful, something that will be of eternal purpose coming out of that painful experience. So before we dig in into bringing out something new from our pain, let's even understand this concept of pain. You know, when you look at the Bible, many times when it's talking about pain, that concept of pain is always linked to the travail that is involved in a birthing process. Many times when you see pain being described, there is the metaphor that is used, and which is about the travail that takes place in the birthing process. You hear that a mother who is, that a woman who is travailing in labor, the pain of travail in labor, and even when we are laboring over, somebody not necessarily bringing forth a baby. When you're laboring over something, you literally travailing. It is like you want to birth something, you want to bring forth. And so that it suggests to us that there is an emotion or experiences that is associated with pain that is distressing, right? It is distressing. In fact, it is deeply distressing. But when it resolves, when the deep distress, the travail, when it resolves, it can bring forth new dimensions of hope, of care, of empowerment, as well as vitality, and prepares us to face new challenges. And let me use the illustration of a mother in in labor, women in labor. We all know that for women to bring forth, majority of us will go through pain. And that pain is not starting when the labor process, begins. Many women go through one form of distress and discomfort throughout the course of the pregnancy. So that by the time you now get to the labor room, that is escalation of pain. Any woman who has a child can tell you that that pain is beyond description. Even when we use medications to augment, to minimize the pain, it is still very distressing. And for some of us who have had cesarean sections, we may have escaped the labor process, the pain of the labor process. But every woman who has had cesarean section also knows that there is a pain that comes after from the wound that has been created, and that also takes time to heal. But the bottom line of what I'm trying to share here about the labor process, the travailing of a woman in labor, is that there is something she is looking forward to. And I'm not going to jumpstart it to that place, but I just want you to keep that in back of mind, that she knows that that pain that she is in, that travail, will bring forth a child. Now, pain is often defined as something that is unpleasant, it is distressing feeling, it's caused by intense stimuli. And I mean, the interesting thing is that the same source of pain produces different responses from people. We don't all experience pain the same way. Some women go through labor, it is painful, but for some women, it is excruciatingly painful. And let me take it out of women alone, because men also go through things that cause pain. So the same cause of pain can elicit a different intensity of response from which changes from one person to the other based on our resilience, our pain threshold. Somebody can be, you can have a scratch and be wailing, and another person would just like water off the back. But you see, everybody has different pain threshold, right? But you see, pain can be felt without a physical cause. And that is the one that we deal with in this place, in this space. The pain that comes from non-physical cause, because pain can be experienced at two different spheres of our lives, or two different dimensions of our being. Now, the pain that comes from physical source is often external, and there is the pain that comes from the inner self, the inner part of us in the soul, right? Now, the pain that causes, the experience that causes us pain can be both a physical agony, which is from the physical self, or from something that is happening in the inside of us. And if we look at Job, we will recognize that, the pain and the agony of Job was coming from two dimensions. First, the, the pain in the inside from the loss of his children, the loss of all his property. That is an anguish in the soul. And then, as if that was not bad enough, he experienced physical pain from the sores on his body. The Bible actually recorded that he was using broken clay to scratch the sore. And so we see that, he experienced both the physical and the emotional pain. Right? If you look at Job 14:22, it says, but his body grieves over the pain that was on top of it, and his soul mourns at the loss of himself. And many times we go through the combination of physical and emotional pain. People who have suffered chronic diseases can tell you they both go through the anguish, the inner anguish of not being able to understand what is okay. When we get to that point, what if there is nothing to look forward to beyond the pain? Okay. That is why we are talking. That's why we are here. That's why we are here, because our pain cannot be wasted. God does not waste our pain. We are the only one who can waste our pain. We can allow God to transform that pain. In the moment that we are going through the pain, it is difficult for us to see anything to look forward to. Yes, we understand that. When we are going through the pain, you are not in that moment, except that you are listening to me right now, thinking about what can come out of the pain. And that's the whole essence of coming here. At the time when I was going through my own painful experience, it is because I had gone through multiple painful experiences, and I had seen a pattern that something good can come out of every one of my painful experiences. It helped to reframe the way I look at pain. And that's why I can come here and share with us that that possibility does exist. When I lost my child as a stillbirth, in that moment, it was very difficult for me to see how that painful loss of a child that I had looked forward to can translate to something new, to something good, ultimately. But today I can come back and say that story of how I processed my child loss and how I grew from it had given me the opportunity to support other women who have suffered child loss. And I can be there for them because I know what it takes out of a woman or out of a family to lose a child. And therefore, having experienced that, and in different phases of my life, when I go through anything now, what I am thinking about now, because of the experiences that I have, is what is this going to birth? And that's why I can share with you today that our painful experience can birth something new. How is what we're going to be discussing over this next few weeks, if you come along with me. All right, so I will come back to that question and expand on it further as we go on. But let's go with the flow. So basically, what I was sharing before is that pain can exist in the physical and it can exist in the emotional. Both of them can't exist together. There are instances like Job's experience where both existed together. There can also be instances where we have emotional pain without physical pain. And there are instances where we can have physical pain without emotional pain. In the case of Job, he experienced both of them. In the case of my child loss, I experienced both of them. When I lost my two legs, I experienced both of them. I faced the physical pain of having two legs cut off, and there was a period where that wound was very, very painful. And then I had to deal with the emotional pain that comes with that degree of loss. It's a bit hot here. Okay. I can also relate that to living 20 years with chronic pain, chronic diseases that caused me physical pain. In those 20 years, I experienced both physical and emotional pain. Pain from the distress of what the diseases were doing to my body, the physical hurt that I experienced, the excruciating pain, sometimes in my chest, in my stomach, and then what it was doing to me emotionally. Because you keep wondering, when is this going to come to an end? What is this going to translate to? How much longer do we have to go through these painful experiences before it becomes something that we can testify about? Today, 20 years down the road, I can testify about it. And the timing for each of us is different. But the important thing is that we keep that, we allow our mind to focus on that possibility of a future, a possible future that can exist for us beyond our pain, the growth that we can experience beyond our pain. Now, throughout last month, we were talking about post-traumatic growth. It is because it has been proven scientifically and in every way possible that growth does happen through our pain and beyond our pain. And therefore, we can have post-traumatic growth. And it can manifest in our increased appreciation for life. It manifests in the lessons that we learn that we can apply to other areas of our lives. And so this month, what I want to do is to take it further, for us to expand it and look at the new things that can be possible beyond our pain. So, physical pain, physical diseases, sicknesses will cause us pain, incredible pain with different manifestations. Those who have been there know it. While I'm describing what pain may be like, it's because I want you to be able to relate with what you are experiencing, to show you the different dimensions in which we can have pain. When you look at the book of Psalms, you will see that David experienced a lot of emotional pain. And in the midst of his emotional pain, it actually feels as if that pain was physical. And he is somebody who is very descriptive in the expression of what the challenging seasons of his life, the difficulties that he is facing, and what it is doing to him. He has a very descriptive language for expressing what he is going through. And one of them is in Psalm 39. And he said, but I stood there. If you read from the beginning, he was talking about what people were doing to him, the challenges that he was facing. And then he went on to say, I stood there in silence, not even speaking of good things. And the turmoil inside of me grew. And I want to read that to us in a couple of other translations, because some of them says that while he was silent, nothing was escaping it from his mouth in that point to show that he was in pain. But he was the tumult, the anguish that was going on in his soul was multiplying. And that was what David was expressing in Psalm 39. I want to read that in a couple of other translations just to amplify it. Yeah. He said, I will guide myself, my ways, and lest I sin with my tongue. He didn't want to say anything, but he says, I will restrain my mouth with muzzle while the wicked stood before me. So he was experiencing, something that was caused by other people. There was something that was going on. He had enemies that were attacking him, the wicked that stood before him. And he said that he wasn't going to speak. But as he stood there in silence, the tumult grew worse in the inside of him. And the more he thought about what he was experiencing, the bitter he became, the hotter the tumult was, the hotter the anguish was. It says, I had chosen that I will remain silent, but and not grumble or speak out about my disappointment. But the longer I am silent, the more my pain grew worse. You know that in that instance, he was not talking about physical pain. He's talking about pain in his soul, because he has been a victim of wickedness. He's been a victim of injustice, calumny. The people were saying things, artful things to him and about him. And you and I know that can be possible for us even in our present day, where people do things that hurt us deeply. Nobody will see it on our body, but we know that the anguish in our souls and the anguish in our inner self is growing. And this is even the more evident for people who suffer emotional abuse in relationships. They don't have anything to show to the world that they are being abused, because they're not physically abused. But the intensity of pain, of sorrow and anguish that they are suffering because of the emotional abuse, it's eating them up, right? And so we get to a point where that triggers a lot of other things. So pain can be physical, pain can be emotional, and the travail of pain can end in bitterness if we keep our eyes on it. If we do not find a means of dealing with it, if we do not find a healthy way to deal with that emotional pain, it can, take us to the path of bitterness. It can take us to the path of despair. And we shared a reel on this group yesterday or so, I think it was, or the day before yesterday. And it was talking about what you can become because of your pain. You can choose between being better or becoming bitter. You can choose between becoming, letting it build courage in you or taking you to the place of discouragement. That's where the choices we make. What we do with our pain, or what we allow our pain to transform us into, has a lot to do with how we process the pain, how we view the pain. And if our pain is going to produce something new, something beautiful, it means that we need to look beyond the pain to see the possibilities that it can birth. And it is with that mindset that we posture ourselves to see what is in this to learn. What are the lessons that we can learn from this? I know I had done a video recently, earlier this year, on lessons from the place of pain. The place of pain is a place where we can learn a lot. When I work with my client, one of the things that I want them to do is, what can you learn from this experience? When we look at your past painful experiences, we want to examine it for what we can learn from it, not to stay in the place where it happened to you. And as we were discussing last week, when we stay in the place where it happened to us, we become stuck. We are stuck in that place. And there is no growth that can happen when we remain stuck. My guest speaker shared an interesting analogy. And she said, when we drive on the road, we drive our car, there's times we go over bumps and we just ride it over. And there are times when our car goes into a ditch, but we never will leave our car in the ditch and sit there when such things happen to us. We will cry out for help. We will look for somebody to help us get out of that car and to bring that car out of the ditch. Then we will do everything that is needful to ensure that that car is restored. But when it comes to our lives and we get into a ditch, more often than not, we can stay stuck in that ditch. But we must get to the place where we call for help and we go through the process of healing so that that experience can be a learning point, can lead us in a path that takes us in a new direction that may actually be better for us, right? Because we know that there is no detail of our lives that escapes God. And He can work all things together for good and for His glory. And that is the truth that we want to keep at the back of our mind. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, what I share on Beyond the Pain is faith informed. I'm a faith informed trauma transformational coach. I believe that we can anchor our healing on the truth, biblical truth. And it is those biblical truths that provide a solid anchor for us to keep hope alive when we are going through the storms. The biblical truth becomes the lifeline that we hold on to while we are in that place of pain. And it is those biblical truths that helps us to reframe how we process, how we look at that experience and what can come out of it. All right, so I just want to put that on the table for those who are joining me for the first time. That says faith informed, and it is anchored on the truth. It is anchoring our journey beyond the pain on the truth of God's word so that we can experience the emotional healing that is possible. And it is when we experience the emotional healing that we can go on to the growth, to the transformation that is possible beyond our pain. Friends, I know that pain is not logical. When you're in it, you can't be logical. And I get it. I've been there. And when we're in it, all we are seeing in that moment is what we're experiencing. And many times when we are there, we speak in the bitterness of our soul, in the bitterness of the pain that we are experiencing in our soul. Job said, I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. Okay, need to get, all right. Let me just get some power into my system. Job spoke in the bitterness of his soul. When Hannah went to did I feel disappointed when it seems as if God did not show up? I had this scripture, and that's why I say that everything I do is founded on scripture because that was what helped me. I looked at David. When David went to war in 2 Samuel, and he came back from war, and by the time he got back, his whole town has been razed down. The entire city was razed down. His wife and his children were carried away. The situation was so bad, that men were wailing and crying. They were wailing and they were crying. But two things emerged: that there are different ways we can deal with our pain, with the disappointment, with the things that happens to us when, that causes us pain. The men who went with David, who lost wives and children just like David did, gathered themselves together. They became angry. They became bitter. And in the bitterness, in the anger, what did they say? They will stone David. Now David has another trauma on top of his trauma. The trauma of losing his wives and children, the trauma of losing his city, plus the trauma of rejection that brought him back. Now, trauma of his own friends threatening to stone him. What did the Bible say that David did? It says he encouraged himself in his God. A group of people got angry and bitter. Same experience, different responses. One group got angry and very bitter. One man encouraged himself in God. When life became tough for me, when the pain was incredible, when it seems as if the more I was praying, the worse the situation seems to be appearing, I encouraged myself in God. I chose to keep hope alive. And it was not in my own strength. It was by the grace of God, because I knew that my pain will never be in vain. And because I had that conviction and I was fully persuaded that my pain will not be in vain, it helped me to encourage myself. It helped me to deal with disappointment. It helped me to deal with the long waiting. And so there is an action that is required of us, but that action will only be stimulated by what we are convinced of. And part of why I come here every Tuesday to share with you is to encourage you to know what is possible, that there is a possible future of positive things beyond our painful experience, no matter how intense. However, if we do not have this focus, if we do not have this mindset, and we focus on the pain, we will miss the purpose. If we focus on the wound that has been inflicted on us, that is what we will see. It will keep magnifying. It will keep magnifying. But if we shift our focus from the pain and begin to consider a possibility of this pain to be transformed, that is where victory begins. That is where courage begins. That is where hope comes alive. But we have to be able to see the possibility of that pain being transformed to something. Even when you can't define it, how on earth would I have known when my two legs were amputated 10 years ago that it will become an opportunity for me to do what I'm doing today? No way. How would I ever have known when they gave me the diagnosis in 1993 of what that now took 20 long years before I could regain back my health. How would I ever have known that I would be where I am today, using that experience to bring hope and encouragement to the others, to others? There was no way I knew. There was no way. I cannot foresee the future, but I knew who holds my future. I knew who was holding my life. And because I had a relationship with a person who promised me he would not waste my pain, it then became possible to endure the pain. We cannot endure the pain if we do not have an outlook of something possible. Today, what the pain has produced is beyond my wildest imagination. There is no way I would have believed it if somebody had told me in 1993 when the problem started, or in 1998 when the doctors gave me the comprehensive diagnosis that it will produce what I'm doing, what I'm seeing today. There's no way, even if somebody told me when both legs were cut off in 2013, that process of losing two legs will become a foundation that has given support to almost 200 amputees today. So I can come from that place of experience that I have endured pain. Yes, intense emotional pain, intense anguish of the soul, intense physical pain. Oh, excruciating physical pain. If there is any word to describe the intensity of the pain, I've been there. But in spite of all of that, I see what the new things that it has birthed. The truth is that when a mother brings forth a child, or she is in that process of bringing forth a child, she is screaming. She has no idea what that child is going to look like. No matter how detailed the ultrasound may be, there is no way a mother in labor knows what the child is going to look like. It is something that she has to wait for. It's something that she has to hope for. And it's something that she has to believe will happen. All right? It's something that she has to believe that it is possible. And when that child comes out, if that child does not cry, everybody is going to be running helter-skelter. I know when my child came out after the pain of Pitocin-induced labor and the child did not cry, I knew that I had a stillbirth. But the child must cry in pain for us to be assured that he has life. He cries in the pain of separation from the comfort of the mother's womb. He cries in pain, but that pain is what brings joy to the mother. That yes, I have a living child, a healthy child. A mother who goes through the labor of bringing forth a child and who does not hear the cry of that child. Her pain is not only physical, her pain is also deeply emotional. And so, pain produces a glorious outcome if we endure it with the mindset that God will never take us to the place of pain and leave us alone there. In fact, Isaiah says that, Isaiah 66 verse 9 says, in the same way, I will not cause pain without allowing something new to be born. If God said he will not allow pain without ensuring that something new is produced from it, something new is born from it, because he says, I promise that if I cause the pain of birth, I will not stop until I will not stop you from having your new nation. Thus says God. He does not bring us to the place of pain or allow pain without ensuring that it produces something new. But let's get this thing right. The pain that we suffer in our world today is because we live in a broken world, a world that is broken by sin. This was not the original intention. Pain, suffering, anguish enter into this world when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. But thank God that's not the end of the story. God provided an opportunity for us to be reconciled back to Him. But for as long as we are on this side of the divide, but Jesus said to us that in this world we will have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer that He has overcome the world. So there is hope for us. Those of us who are called by the name of the Lord, who know who we are, who know who our God is, there is hope that even in the midst of our painful experiences, even in the midst of all that is happening around about us that is causing us anguish, we can hope for a future that is positive, anchored on the truth of God's word. We can hope in the truth that God will redeem our pain. He will never leave us alone. He will never forsake us. And it is Him doing the work of redemption in us, the redemption of our pain, that causes us to produce something new, something beautiful from very painful experiences. Many of the songs that we sing today are scripted, especially in Christianity, has been scripted by people who had gone through pain. They had gone through something that pressed them, that pressured them, and it produced what we are singing today. On a daily basis, we ourselves we see what pain can produce. If you see oil, you know that something has been crushed for that oil to be produced. If you use perfume on a daily basis, something was crushed, something was subjected to pain for that perfume to be produced. There would be no aroma beauty for aroma without the flowers be subjected to pain. There will be no juice to drink without something being squeezed and subjected to pain. Something new comes out of the place of crushing, from the place of squeezing. It produces something that is beautiful, that is fragrant. For those of you who love perfume, those of you who use oil, just name it. Those who wear gold know that that gold has gone through fire, fiery furnace. That is painful. If that gold can speak, it will scream. But then look at what it does. Look at the outcome. Look at the product. You see, I know that when we are in the midst of faith, when it is intense, we tend to ask, oh, where is God? Where is God? How much longer am I going to go through this? Is God hearing me? Even David said, have you gone away from me? Hear my cry, O God. Attend to my cry. From the ends of the earth, hear me when I call, because my soul is overwhelmed. This is, when our soul is overwhelmed, lead me to the place that is higher than I. You see, when we go through pain that we cannot comprehend, when we go through wickedness of men, injustice, if we do not have an anchor of hope, of perceptive that sees a possibility of a future beyond that moment, beyond that season of pain, we will be disillusioned, we will be discouraged, we will give in to despair, we will give up on life. And when a man loses hope, he is in a very precarious place, because we all need hope to stay alive. And so when those questions come to us and seems as if God is far away, the truth is God is never further than a thought away, because he has promised he will never leave us or forsake us. He says that when you go through the waters, I will be there with you. When you go through fire, I will be there. It will not kindle upon you. And so it means that you and I need to trust that if God says he will never leave us alone, he will never abandon us, he will never forsake us, that he means just that. And you see, I have taken time to set this foundation because I want us to see the possibility that something can come out of a place of tragedy. We all know this song. It is well with my soul. That song came from a place of tragedy. If that man had refused to be comforted, if he has refused the comfort that God could give him when he lost his children in that terrible shipwreck, we would never have the song today. Dunsin Oyekan has produced many soul-stirring songs that is inspiring and encouraging us today. But you see, he learned a lesson when he lost his wife. And that truth that God spoke to his heart, that if he focuses on the pain, he will miss the purpose, helped him to process his pain and transform his pain. One of the things that we do on this group is to encourage you to know that pain has power that we can harness. Pain is so powerful. It can hold us in this place where life happened to us. Pain can shackle. Pain can twist us on the inside if we do not open ourselves up for healing. We see the power in that pain can be harnessed, just as we harness the power of the sun and turn the soul into solar energy to electricity that we can use in our homes. We can harness the power of the pain. If we can harness the power of the wind and use it to power turbines that produces electricity, we can harness the power of a pain and transform our pain to purpose, to profit. We have done 3 cohorts of profit of pain. And I'm so grateful to God to see those who participated in the course finding purpose in their pain, learning how to transform their pain to bring forth something new, something beautiful. I have worked with clients who have gone through experiences that I can't even find words adequate enough to express the anguish that they suffered. And some of them became bitter in their soul. But by the grace of God, They've been able to transform that pain to a learning platform, a springboard to something new. That is the choice you and I will have to make. Whether our pain will be a springboard that we will step on to go to our next level, or it's going to be a dive into the pit where we stay. My dear friends, when when it seems as if nothing is happening, when it seems as if it's difficult for us to feel God, to see God turning our situation, let me assure you that God is working behind the scenes. God will never, if you are a child of God and you trust in Him, He will never leave you alone in the midst of that pain. He is beckoning on you to turn your attention to Him. No growth can take place when there is pain. No growth can take place without pain. You cannot experience growth, any growth whatsoever, even physical growth, without going through pain. That we cannot experience transformation without some pain. Ask the caterpillar that wants to become a butterfly. It's going to go through some distress, some pain. It takes itself into the cocoon and it must squeeze itself. It must come out of that cocoon. And in the process of squeezing itself out of that cocoon, it strengthens its wings so that it can come out and fly. But if it does not go through that pain of squeezing itself out of the cocoon, if you go and help it to come out, you know that that butterfly is never going to fly. There is some degree of pressure, of pain that is needed for transformation to happen. There is some degree of pain that is needed for growth to happen. And if we understand it, that there is something you are becoming in your place of pain, and it could be a change for better or a change for worse. It becomes a change for better when you grow and you learn and you see something beautiful coming out of it, whether you can see it with your physical eyes or not. But it can be a change for worse if you become bitter and despondent because of what the life experience has been. Our time is fast spent. We will continue on this subject by the grace of God next week. We'll come here every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. West African time and 9 p.m. Central European time. We talk about purpose beyond the pain. We talk about transforming our pain to power, to profit, and to power, profit, and purpose. There is purpose in your pain. I said it before. You will never know what you're becoming. You will never know what you're becoming if you don't make the right choices when you are going through pain. Your pain will produce something in you. It will make you a stronger person, a more resilient person. So don't give up in the midst of your pain. Just as we will never allow a woman in labor to give up in the process of delivery, don't give up. You are birthing something. You are bringing forth something in that place. Stay with it. Don't give up. Hold fast to hope. Trust in God and be assured that your pain can produce something new. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you want to discuss this further on a one on one basis, you can send me a DM or a personal message and we can talk about it further. If you want me to coach you and support you, also reach out by DM or by personal message. It will be my pleasure to do so. If you have questions that you want answered, please don't hesitate to share it in the comments as well. By the grace of God, we will continue on this subject next week, Tuesday. That something new can come out of your pain. You can produce something new from your painful experiences. And so, until we meet again, may the Lord keep you. And I pray that everything that you've heard from me tonight will be like seed planted on a fertile ground and will bring you hope, it will bring you joy, and it will bring you a strengthening of your faith and trust in God and of your conviction that something beautiful, something new can be birthed from your pain. Have a good night rest, and I wish you a richly fruitful and richly blessed month of June. I pray that you will have a testimony this month that requires no explanation. In Jesus' name, God bless you. Good night.